It's the Blood Red podcast, courtesy of the Liverpool Echo. I'm Guy Clarke. Welcome along. Liverpool set for Real revenge in Paris. But first, look to earn their spurs in the Premier League title race. Here to discuss the Reds reaching the Champions League final, the title race, quadruple, Mohamed Salah winning personal accolades, and just about everything else. We have the chief, Ian Doyle, the Squires, and our own Echo wonder kid, Tom Cavilla. Chaps, I hope you are all well. Doyle, I'll throw over to you first. And well, Liverpool reaching yet another Champions League final, and as Mohamed Salah said, a chance for revenge time.
There is, yeah. We could also get revenge on the weather in Spain, which was absolutely appalling. I got absolutely soaked on 3 separate occasions. I'm amazed I've not got a cold, to be honest. I'd imagine there's 1 or 2 who are out there who will be nursing one and other things, I suspect, given the celebrations that went on after Liverpool reached, the 10th European Cup final. I think there's only Bayern Munich, AC Milan, and obviously Real Madrid who've reached more. How many is that for Real Madrid now? Is it 17?
Yeah, I think it's
17, yeah, because they've only lost 3, haven't they? They've won 13. So yeah, it could be. Well, it's a strange one, isn't it? Because yeah, it's revenge, but Karius won't be playing, and he was obviously at fault for 2 of the goals, and Ramos won't be playing because he doesn't play for Real Madrid anymore, and he was obviously involved with that situation with Mohamed Salah, who got his own kind of, not so much revenge, but made his point by scoring in the Champions League final the following season. So, I mean, and Liverpool also lost to Real Madrid last year in the quarterfinals, which, okay, pandemic football, they played 1 game at a training ground and the other one at an empty stadium. So not quite the same. But yeah, there is going to be an element of revenge. And I know we'll touch on various bits and bobs around the game on Tuesday a bit and the reaction to it after that. I think possibly Liverpool would have preferred to play Real Madrid than Manchester City, purely on the basis that it's Manchester City. I think for the fans, it would feel more of a European final playing a team from outside the Premier League. Also makes it a little bit slightly easier to get over there. Not everybody's going on the Eurostar or the plane from Manchester, so that will help a little bit. And also, yeah, I suppose there is the sense that it wouldn't be any easier playing Real Madrid, because Real Madrid are the champions, runaway champions of Spain. As we said before, they've won it 13 times this competition. They only won it the other year against Liverpool, and they knocked out Liverpool last season. So Jurgen Klopp said today that they've got to be regarded, I think he said, massive favourites or something along those lines, which they have to be, because for as much as we say Liverpool are one of the best teams in the world, and they quite clearly are, Real Madrid have that kind of, there's that mystique, isn't it, around this competition? I mean, we could do an entire podcast on whether or not all those early ones should really count, but the reality is they have won it quite a lot of times in the last 10 years or so. Admittedly, not always when being the best team, and I don't think anybody can argue with the fact that the last couple of rounds, you've sat watching them and gone, how on earth have they got away with this again? They seem to play like they're doing the least amount possible to get the best result. And obviously, it was slightly different against City in the fact that they just went, let's just go for it in the last 5 minutes. And obviously, again, I'll mention this a bit later. I didn't see the game as it was happening, but when I watched the highlights, it was like about, they could have been 3-1 just in injury time alone at the end of normal time. It was ridiculous. I watched the first half, and there wasn't a lot going on. But for Liverpool, obviously, it's been 3 days since they got through. I know we haven't really spoken about the game yet, but when they were 2-0 at half time, I think a number of Liverpool fans were thinking, well, this hasn't quite gone as we were expecting. But we did a podcast beforehand with Neil Jones and James Pearce, and I said that I thought the final score would be 2-2. They got it wrong, but it was close. I said it'd be 2-2 because I did think that they would just put absolutely everything out there. And Liverpool have shown in the past that it's not easy to get through these semi-finals. Against Barcelona, the massive comeback, against Roma, they're nearly on the end of another massive comeback. And when they beat Chelsea in the 2000s, one was by 1 goal, and the other one was on penalties, and they went out on 1 goal another year after that. So, these are not easy games. Liverpool ended up about as comfortable as you could possibly get. With what was it, about 25 minutes to go, it was 2-2, and you kind of realised then that they weren't coming back after that. But yeah, to play Real Madrid, there will be an element of revenge to it, but Mohamed Salah probably would quite like to, make his point after what happened to him, personally in Kiev in 2018. But I think for Liverpool, it's just a matter of hopefully just finishing up with what might be a quadruple.
Yeah, most definitely. We're going to talk a bit about that a bit more as well to come. But Jamal, whilst we're recording, we're live on YouTube and Facebook. Jamal's got in touch, says, can't lie, I'm very happy it isn't City. They can match our intensity. I'm not sure Madrid can. Theo, what's your take on that? You agree with that? Or, I mean, Real Madrid this season, certainly through the knockout phase, don't look like they could have coped with Paris Saint-Germain, Chelsea or Man City's intensity, yet they've made it through every time.
Well, that's just it about Real Madrid. As Doyle said, there's this mystique about them. I think Klopp's referenced it today. Like, granted, this Liverpool squad is very similar to the one 2018, but how many of this members of this Real Madrid squad are in their fifth final? I think it's 5 finals in 9 years. That is an insane record. And when you think Benzema's been there, done it all, Bale, Cruz, Modric, Marcelo, there's so many players who've just got all that experience. And the way it's going for them, it's very easy to sit on the fence and say it's going to go one of two ways. It's either their luck is going to run out in the final and Liverpool get their revenge, or their name is on the trophy because everything is going for them. And it's a bit too early to want to make that prediction either way. Like, you've got faith in Liverpool to be able to get the job done against Real Madrid because they are one of the very best teams in the world this season. They're going for a quadruple. And they're defeating everyone that stands in front of them. Whether you prefer it to Man City, I think obviously you prefer Real Madrid to Man City. For what Doyle said, it feels like more a European final. It's the glamour tie in a glamour city. Going Man City, that they're still not that elite name, no matter what they achieve in Premier League. Even if they go and win the European Cup in the next season, the year after, or whatever, they are always going to be the second team in Manchester. It's not this glamorous name compared to a Real Madrid who have been European royalty since the very first year of the Champions League, from the very first year of the European Cup. You hope, whether there'll be a negative impact on their Premier League title hopes now. It's hard to say. I think before Guardiola did, they would occasionally suffer a hangover. That they'd drop points, they'd lose a few games, they'd draw a few games straight after an exit. But in the Premier League, they don't tend to. We've seen how good Man City are. There isn't much to separate Liverpool and City this year. They've drawn twice in the Premier League. Liverpool really destroyed them in the first half of that FA Cup semi-final, but that was a very second choice City team. Prospect of facing them in the final was a rather scary one, and it was also that prospect of you could come to the end of the season, you've lost out on the Premier League to Man City, and then they're going to the summer beating you in the Champions League final. At least we've been spared that, and now it's just, can Liverpool get revenge? You never write off Real Madrid, but you never write off Liverpool.
No, you don't write off Liverpool. And Tom, what about the manner of the way in which Liverpool did complete the job in the end? I mean, 2-0 heading out to Villarreal. I think everybody was happy to say tied, done and dusted, maybe apart from Ian Doyle. But at half-time, Liverpool find themselves 2-0 down. Luis Diaz comes on and changes it all back around again.
Yeah, I don't think many people were predicting that. I know, Ian, you said 2-2, I think, before the game. But
I quite clearly did predict it then.
Honestly. No, I honestly, I didn't expect Villarreal to play that well in the first time. I know, obviously, they didn't have the best game at Anfield, and a lot of people were saying that that's not the Villarreal you've seen against Bayern Munich and Juventus, but obviously they just massively upped the game in that first 45 minutes, and they deserved to be 2-0 up at that point. Liverpool just didn't get going in the game, but I think with this Liverpool team, there's always that. But the same when they won the league that season, there was just that inevitability that they were going to come through and win the game, even if they went behind. And I think against Villarreal, it was the same. Even though it was 2-0, you just felt that second half, they're going to come out, they'll start playing how you expect them to. And that's what they did. Obviously, 3 goals, booked the place in the final. And I think, Liverpool deserved it in the end, but they were, pushed in that first half a lot by Villarreal. And, you've got to give Liverpool credit for responding like that. A lot of teams, you see what happened to Man City when you get put under pressure, what can happen. Obviously, Man City weren't able to recover from that, but Liverpool, came back from 2 goals down, and, it was a very professional second half performance.
Made it something for us to enjoy, didn't it? Like, if Liverpool had just gone to Spain and done it easily, it almost felt underwhelming. But the fact that they had to come back and have this comeback, and even when they got that first goal, they're probably going through here. But by making it a little bit difficult, it made it more of an achievement on the night. And
so your emotion at half-time was enjoyment, was it?
Not at half-time, no.
I wasn't enjoying it. I was,
no, at all.
Three goals in the first half for Liverpool would have been really nice. If it had finished like they scored 2 at the end. It'd be like, not supposed to have done all my work by that point, but
you celebrate the goals more, don't you? When they got that first one, it's the relief. The second one, this is a comeback on the night as well. And then the third, it's just Liverpool at their best. They managed to get a comeback out of it. What
order would those goals have had to have gone in for you not to enjoy them?
Well, it's a bit boring, isn't it? Like 2-0 up. We all assumed Liverpool would be in the final in Paris, and they made it a little bit more difficult. There's
a little bit of jeopardy, and that's what I think you're trying to get at.
There's drama there. That's what it made it more of a game to enjoy. Like you look at the Real Madrid Man City game, that was proper roller coaster football. Now we didn't expect. Well, you might have expected that, Doyle, but no one else really expected Liverpool to have a struggle against Villarreal. They all assumed they'd just be in the final.
As I explained before, all the evidence suggests that it always is. It always is in the semi-final. Why on earth? For a start, if a team's got to a semi-final, they're obviously rather good, and they're just going to put everything on the line. So you're always going to have a struggle in these games.
Support a team who create jeopardy just for the fun of it, eh? Anyway.
Hang on, Guy. What happened when Arsenal played Villarreal in their semi-final?
it was only talking about that. Very low point. Right, in terms of...
you won.
Oh, you mean 2006? You don't mean last season? Yeah, last season was a bit of a different situation.
Oh, yeah, but not Europa League. No, not interested in that.
Yeah, no, that was... Anyway, let's talk about Liverpool. And in terms of the way, I suppose, in that first half, maybe, they did, I don't know, take the lead they had for granted, whether or not that was playing on the players' minds or not, or it was just the way in which Villarreal came out in that first half. But in terms of Real Madrid, Doyle, I've watched them throughout the knockout phase of the Champions League. I'm still yet to be convinced they're a truly great side. But as Theo said, a fifth final in 9 years awaits for them. And they're a side who, if Liverpool were to show that kind of vulnerability of allowing the opposition in and show a bit of complacency, they've proven through this run to the final that they will certainly more than take that opportunity without even really needing to be in a game.
What I would say about Real Madrid and Liverpool is that they're the two teams who benefited most from being able to make 5 subs. I think they've both got good strength in depth. And to be fair, City have as well. If City had got to the final, you would say the same. Villarreal didn't have that. Bayern Munich don't really have that. Chelsea kind of were losing players a little bit, or players weren't quite in form for whatever reason. Obviously, there's other things going on at that club at the moment. And they were all the main teams that you're looking at who could possibly win it. And Guy, we've said this, Camavinga, when he comes on, he always does really well for Real Madrid.
Camavinga,
and he's
I was going to say, no one really seems to be talking about it. But I mean, I remember watching the game against PSG. They were 2-0 down in the tie. He comes on, changes the game around. Losing 3-0 at home to Chelsea, he comes on. They get a couple of goals. It seems to be they don't play until he comes on, and he won the penalty, didn't he?
He's kind of a player that he do really at Liverpool. That's the kind of player that Liverpool don't want to come up against, because he's exactly the kind of player that they would love, because he's all action. He can do all the things. He's got a great engine. He's somebody in the final. I know we're looking ahead a little bit now, but in the final, he will come on at some point, if not start. Probably won't start. And he'll make a difference. And Liverpool surely have a plan for him. In fact, I was talking about this with some people at the press conference earlier, saying that surely they must know by now. They'll have spotted that, and they'll know exactly what it is that they can do. But Real Madrid, no, they're not a great team, but what they are is they've got a team of a lot of great players, not necessarily at their peak. A lot of them are quite past their peak, and they might be thinking, this might be a last chance for us. But having said that, I'm pretty sure that's what we were saying in 2018. And it's like, well, I can't remember, Ronaldo went, Navas went, the keeper. Sergio Ramos went to PSG, doesn't play now because he's forever injured. But the rest of them, Marcelo's on the bench, isn't he? Cruz, Casemiro's slightly different. Modric, Benzema, all of those kind of players. But they've also now got Vinicius, who had done absolutely next to nothing in his Real Madrid career until he played Liverpool last season. Since then, he's been brilliant. And they've now got Rodrigo.
He had a fight in the tunnel, didn't he, with Benzema in the group stage last year?
Yeah. And it's Rodrigo. I might be wrong on this. I think Rodrigo was somebody that Liverpool wanted to sign. And
there was something going around yesterday on that. They'd had to talk to the agent.
Yeah, so basically that was a while ago, and he's Real Madrid quite cleverly snapped him up, and but they could play a lot of money for him, was Liverpool can't, and that's the value of being able to do that with players who you don't know for sure are going to be come through, but they can afford to do that. Liverpool possibly can't. So I do think that Yeah, Real Madrid are a very curious team, but they've won the Spanish league by loads of points. Admittedly, Barcelona haven't been very good this year, and Atletico Madrid have gone past their best, but they're a team of winners as well. So that's why Klopp, as Theo said those comments at the press conference. I know it's a little bit of mind games already. We were still 3 weeks off from the final, aren't we? But I do think there'll be a great expectation. There will be a greater expectation on Real Madrid than there will Liverpool, I think. Although that could change depending on what happens between now and the end of the season in terms of what Liverpool win.
So you think Real Madrid, as it stands today, are the favourites?
100%. It's not even a doubt. It's not even a doubt to me. It's not even a doubt. They really? Are because totally.
I'm not sure. Theo, what's your stance on it? And Tom, I'll ask you the same question because 2018 going into the final, Liverpool were very much underwhelming underdogs. Oh, sorry. Overriding underdogs in that game, and Real Madrid clearly the favourites in it. But for me now, Liverpool have won a Premier League title. They've won a Champions League. It could be 2 Premier Leagues by the time they rock up in Paris. I would have Liverpool down as the favourites.
If football was played on paper, Liverpool are the favourites. But you can never write this Real Madrid side off for everything we've said so far. They've got that experience. They know how to win these games. It's not a fluke getting to the final however many times in a row. And the times when you were thinking, it's just Ronaldo, that's the only reason they score the goals and get there. It's taken them a few years to get to another one without him. But here they are again. And it's really what they've got that City were missing. Like the only player in that Man City squad, I think, who's won the Champions League, Scott Carson. Whereas we've just listed all these great Real Madrid players who might not be at the very peak of their powers, but they're still delivering for them when they're 34, 35. We heard Klopp say in his press conference after Newcastle when he was comparing Milner to Modric, saying there must be something special about this generation. We're seeing Benzema enjoy the season of his life, putting in this Ballon d'Or form where you assume he was past his best. They're just incredible. And it's what's changed in the Liverpool side. They now have that experience of they have won the Champions League. They have won a Premier League. They could win a few domestic cups and another league title before they play Real Madrid, but they still need to achieve that bit more. It's still almost having to convince themselves, because they were robbed of the chance to do more last year by the pandemic and everything, that they are this great side. If Man City weren't around, they would have won more Premier League titles. And maybe they would have gone further in Europe in the last couple of years if they hadn't lost Van Dijk to injury. But it's all what ifs and buts. Whereas Real Madrid, they have been there. They have done it. They've got all these Champions League wins. They've got all these La Liga wins. It doesn't matter that Spanish football isn't as great as it used to be, or Barcelona had an awful season. They've still stormed it. They've got one of the most experienced and best managers in the world in charge, who has won the European Cup more times than you're going to get anywhere else. It's just that they are this heavyweight of European football. Even if they're not at their best, they still find a way to get to the Champions League final, the biggest game in club football. When you want to look at all that, you can see why people like Doyle would certainly think they're favourites.
Yeah, Tom, you've heard the arguments. Which side of the fence are you leaning?
I honestly think Liverpool will be quietly confident about winning the Champions League. I know Klopp's not the sort of person to come out and say that, but I think deep down they'll go into that thinking they should win it. I don't think Real Madrid's team, like compare it to the 2018 final. I know you said they've got a lot of the same players, but Liverpool's current team is better than that Real Madrid side. I don't think, maybe you can make a case for Benzema, but apart from him, I don't think many of that current side would even get into Liverpool's team, but the current side at the minute. So I think Liverpool...
Say that about Man City, about PSG, about Chelsea. They're all better than...
No, I know that, but I just think that Liverpool will they've got 2018 to get over as well. I think they'll go into this really up for it, and I honestly think they'll beat Real Madrid in the final.
What I would say, picking up what Tom said then, is that from 2018, which is only 4 years ago, Liverpool will have a different goalkeeper, one different centre-back, at least 2 different midfielders, and probably one different forward. So it's half a team that's different. I'm talking Alisson, I'm talking probably be Canati won't it, instead of Matip, because Lovren played and was Liverpool's best player on the day. In midfield that day was, I've already forgotten.
Gini, Milner, Henderson.
Yeah, exactly. Now, probably, when Aldham's not there anymore, it'll be Fabinho and Thiago, won't it? It'll either be one of Henderson or Keita, you would think. And up front, at the moment, if they play the game tomorrow, Diaz will be playing. And Salah obviously went off after half an hour in that game. So if he stays on, then that's somebody else. So you look, that's 6 players. So yeah. Am I talking myself into Liverpool now being favourites? No, it's
Yes.
I think you disagreed there.
It's still Real Madrid. Although interestingly, of course, these two teams have met in Paris in a European Cup final in the past, which was at the other stadium, Parc des Princes in 1981. So Liverpool won 1-0, and left back scored the winner. So we're backing Andy Robertson to pop in and just clock one into the top corner, and that's the end of that. But the other thing as well, I was going to say when Theo was talking about Real Madrid, is that the way things have gone this season, they beat Paris Saint-Germain, Chelsea, Man City. Liverpool have beaten those 3 teams. Everyone was saying Liverpool are quite clearly favourites to win everything, let alone just the Champions League. But because of the way Real Madrid have been, Liverpool could be 2-0 up going into injury time in the final, and people would still be thinking, "Oh, this might still go to extra time here."
But what about the significance, perhaps, of other than Stamford Bridge? So much of their work's been done at the Bernabeu, whereas Jurgen Klopp reflected on his press conference today that Liverpool won every away game in the Champions League. So both sides, obviously, it's at a neutral venue. So Real Madrid don't have the power of the Bernabeu, which this season has been certainly the stadium, albeit they lost. Was it one of their group games? They lost to
Sheriff.
Sheriff, that was it, yeah.
I suppose that's the double bonus, isn't it? Because you think, well, fans haven't been in stadiums, but it wasn't only Real Madrid not having the fans; they didn't have the Bernabeu. Like they're back in the Bernabeu this year, so they're enjoying that experience and they're enjoying having fans cheering on again, so they can all have that extra. I'm saying boost again after we had it on the podcast the other week, but Liverpool have always had Anfield. While they've not been having the very best, it was Inter Milan, wasn't it? They lost at Anfield. Their run this year hasn't been as exciting as we've seen compared to others in the past. That's
went 2-0 down at Villarreal. What do you mean it's not been exciting?
Exactly, you wanted it. That was the fun that you wanted.
Exactly. That's the one bit of fun we've had. But yeah, Real Madrid have had all these twists.
2-1 down against AC Milan, the first game.
Yeah, but you don't win it in the first game. You win it in May.
They literally won 5-1 at Porto. That must have been quite fun. 3-1 at Benfica. Honestly,
it's sort of fun. It's not Barcelona 4-0. It's not. I know it wasn't.
What do you need to be
4-3. Like? You want these famous Anfield European nights. There have not been any famous Anfield European nights on this run.
They've all.
Right. We'll move.
They've won all the.
They've got through. Yeah, they're through to the final. Anyway, right. Let's
the game's finished 3-3 at home against Benfica.
Yeah.
It's got 6
It's not going to be one that we'll remember for years to come. No, it's not.
Remember what?
Exactly.
Right, let's move on and look at the other side of Real Madrid meeting Liverpool in the final. Of course, that's Man City going out. And Tom, I'll throw this one over to you first. What impact do you think Man City getting knocked out is going to have for the remainder of their season? Of course, 4 Premier League games to go now. Are they just going to turn into juggernaut mode and motor away?
It's hard to say, isn't it? I mean, we'll have to see what happens this weekend just to get an idea of how much it's affected them. But I don't really think they're the sort of team that will implode like after losing like that. I don't know, in the league anyway. I think City will. I don't know. I've just got a feeling they're going to win the rest of their games, and Liverpool will as well. And I think it's going to be 1 point in it again. I don't know. That's just what I think at the minute, but might be wrong. It might have a bigger impact than we think because City obviously have been prioritising the Champions League so much. It's been the one trophy they want to win. That even the players have even come out and said that. So to lose it again, people like Fernandinho as well, that in their last season were hoping to go out on a high. People, Bernardo Silva might be his last season as well. So don't know how much it's going to affect them this time around with that realisation that they might have missed that last chance to win it with City. But no, I don't think. I think they're too good of a team to sort of let it affect them too much. So I fortunately don't think it's going to have a massive impact on them.
Yeah, we got a comment that's coming on YouTube. It says City will either wallop Newcastle 6-0 or lose 2-0. It does kind of feel as though that's the way it is. And I kind of see the argument both sides that City now deflated may well trip up against the Newcastle side, who certainly have much improved since their investment in January. Equally, you can kind of just see now they go on the run. They're kind of the kid on the playground who takes his ball and runs away with it and no one else is allowed to play.
Who's that to?
That's
Doyle.
all of us. Oh, to me.
That's to
Sorry.
Doyle.
Yeah. Did somebody take your ball when you were on the playground?
Yeah.
I did wonder where that was coming from. Yeah, I think City, as the comment just said, they're either going to be like 15-0 up after 10 minutes or lose. It is one of those. I mean, for City, you just go, I know we've got 4 games left. Let's just win them and we've won the league. Just get on with it. I don't think they're going to be. They shouldn't have any issues. The only issue they might have is if Newcastle score first, and then or they don't score like early on, because they tend to score really early in a lot of their games, certainly at home in the Premier League. And I think partly this might sound a bit odd, which has never stopped me from saying something on the podcast before, but I do think that Manchester City find it a bit too easy in too many of their games, I think. So therefore, when it comes to playing a leading club, such as Liverpool, Tottenham, Real Madrid, they seem to, this season anyway, just been lacking a little bit in terms of the killer instinct or being able to cope with it. Because if you look at the defense, they've got Edison in goal, and they've had Diaz has been very good, and they've had Laporte or Stones. That's for a lot of the season, it's been regarded as a very, very strong, spine. But in the last month, they've conceded 3-3 to Real Madrid. They conceded 2-3 to Liverpool, and I think there was another game where they conceded a couple of goals. And earlier this season, obviously, they got beat by Tottenham. They got beat by Tottenham twice. Who are, that's why we'll come on to the Liverpool game in a minute. That's why this will be a difficult game for Liverpool. They played Liverpool 3 times, didn't win. They did beat Chelsea twice, but Chelsea for some reason are just a very different beast. They don't tend to be this
twice.
Kind of team.
It was once.
I thought they beat them twice, didn't they?
Not in the league. Was there a cup game?
They beat them one.
They beat them twice in the league.
Yeah. So they beat them twice. But I do think that they kind of were going back to what Theo was saying about fun before. Liverpool have a lot of these games where it's really close, and they do have the occasional game where they win by a fair amount, but a lot of them tend to be struggles. And okay, you look at the Everton game, for example. Everton struggling against Burnley away. Games like that. I know City only won 1-0 at Everton and Liverpool won 4. That's slightly different, but I do think when City have come up against some of the better teams, they have found it more difficult to raise the level to that for whatever reason. It's a little bit like Bayern Munich. Bayern Munich found the Bundesliga so easy that when you then come to the latter stage of the Champions League and they play against good teams, they've kind of lost a little bit of the sharpness. I don't think City lost the sharpness. I just think they've kind of unwittingly lost a bit of the edge because of the fact that so many other teams that they play against don't even try to beat them. They just damage limitation. And I just don't think a lot of the teams in the Premier League do that against Liverpool, whereas they do against City.
Well, they've struggled, found it harder to beat Southampton, for example. I think they've drawn with them twice.
Yeah, I think what
I was going to say is
because they've got no striker as well. I think having no striker, they've got Harry Kane, but then would they have been able to play the same? Would they have been able to play the same way in some of the other games because they play with no striker? It's one of these hypothetical ones. You'll never know the answer.
Yeah, the point with Southampton, I mean, and Theo, I suppose, looking at this weekend's games, obviously, I suppose Liverpool playing first as well is one of those real advantageous positions of that rather than always playing catch-up as they were 3 seasons ago. Now it is a case of Liverpool setting the pace that City have to go to. And I suppose if Liverpool beat Tottenham and then City off the back of being eliminated from the Champions League, that may well be a case where actually all of it kind of comes together and the pressure might well be on City and see how they do react to that. But the reason I mentioned Southampton before was because to me it feels as though when sides do go at Man City a bit, as much as they know they're leaving themselves exposed defensively and can then get rolled over, that does seem to be when they do struggle, as opposed to sides who kind of go there admitting defeat before they've even kind of got off the team bus.
I just want to take a moment to say that might be the nicest thing Doyley's ever said about Spurs, calling them a leading club.
Well, they are. They'll probably finish 4th. They'll hopefully finish 4th as well.
But
too easy. Anyway.
Yeah, going to your question, isn't it? City this year, the teams they've dropped points against home and away. There hasn't been anyone different. So it's the few teams that actually do have a bit of a go about them.
Yeah, but are Newcastle not a different team now to the one they played first half of the season?
Yes, they are. And let me finish. I was going to say, weren't Newcastle the team to last beat them in that, when we're getting the parallels to 2018-19, when they just went half a season unbeaten? Newcastle were the one team to beat them in those last 19 games. I think that might have been at St James's Park. Newcastle, they did attack Liverpool a bit last week, so maybe there's a little hope that they can do similar, but they weren't, at the same time, very good. Like St. Maximin, he didn't struggle, but he didn't really do much against Joe Gomez. If you attack City, maybe you can poke holes, or they'll just pass it around you, score goals for fun. We said the exact same stuff as this. It could either be 6-0 win or a 2-0 loss about their Leeds game last week. As soon as City scored the second, Doyle and I were on the way back from Newcastle. Doyle said, this will be 4-0 now. Sure enough, that's what happened. You just know that's what happens with this Man City team. They have got a couple of holes and they lack a striker. They don't have this full-back cover. But in midfield, they're very strong. They've got some players who are some of the best in the world. Plenty of depth in the key positions. You look at the fixtures they've got left. West Ham, that one could work either way now, because West Ham could have a European hangover themselves, or they realise they have to win now if they want to get into Europe. I think they're 3 points clear of Wolves, 3 points off United, so they could go in Europa, go in Conference, or miss out on Europe altogether. Wolves are on beach mode. And then you've got Villa on the last day. Was how much Steven Gerrard can really inspire his team to do Liverpool a favour. But like Tom's been saying, you just expect City to win every game. You'd like someone to attack them, but it doesn't happen very often. And then maybe when they do attack them, that's when they get torn apart. Like Leeds are a sort of side where they will attack teams. They will have a go. It sounded on the radio last week that they're having a go. They certainly used to under Bielsa, and they got battered twice. Man City are one of the best for a reason.
Yeah, no, fair point. And I suppose we're kind of going to have to wait and see how it does all kind of play out in game by game. But Tom, going back to the analogy of the big kid on the playground stealing my ball and running off, using that for this weekend against Tottenham for Liverpool, is there a team in the Premier League better without the ball than Tottenham? They seem to absolutely thrive when they've not got the ball.
Yeah, I mean, Tottenham, it'll be a difficult game, but I think Liverpool have got too much quality, I think, especially at home. So, I mean, it will be a difficult game against Spurs, but I just think Liverpool will have enough on the day to beat Tottenham. Obviously, Conte has done a good job since coming in. He had a few difficult periods where they lost a few games in a row, but he seems to have them back on track now. So, yeah, it'll be an interesting game, to be honest, to see how Spurs play, how sort of defensive they'll be in the game, or how much they will go for it. But I think Liverpool will be okay on Saturday against Tottenham. I don't see it being like a massive issue for Liverpool.
No, I'm going to pick the team shortly then. Doyle, what do you think of Spurs then in terms of the threat they will pose to Liverpool? I mean, they went away to Man City. Not many thought they could go there and win. They did. They went to Old Trafford not long after that and then lost. I mean, it is very difficult, it seems, to sort of get an understanding for what to expect from Tottenham Hotspur. But equally, as Jurgen Klopp alluded to in his press conference, they have plenty to play for themselves.
Well, if you've got Kane, Son, and the new signing whose name I can't quite remember.
Kulusevski.
Him, who actually has been really impressive whenever I've seen him play. That impressive that I can't remember his name. I think they are going to cause Liverpool problems. I'm not quite on board with Tom saying it's going to be dead easy and it's been really comfortable, because it won't be. Because it never is against Tottenham. Never is against Tottenham. We saw what happened when they played at White Hart Lane then. At the Tottenham Hotspur. It needs a new name, doesn't it? It really needs a new name. The Tottenham Hotspur Stadium is rubbish. It's just basically asking for naming rights, and no one's going to pay for it at the moment. Anyway, that was a tough game for Liverpool. Although that was a Liverpool team that had no Van Dijk. Tyler Morton was playing defensive midfield. There was one or two other players missing as well, wasn't it, through coronavirus? And even then, while they didn't play brilliantly, they should really have still won, I think.
Man sent off as well.
Yeah, Andy Robertson got sent off as well. That's right, towards the end. Atkins scored, like he's going to in the Champions League final. Don't forget, everybody. So I think it's going to be tough. Newcastle was the one that I was thinking of all the games that was going to be the toughest one, and I was impressed by how Liverpool played. I was a bit disappointed in Newcastle. Thought they had a bit more about them, which makes me think they're not going to do anything against City. Well, Liverpool played really well, and if Liverpool play like that against Tottenham and play like the second half against Villarreal against Tottenham, then they'll win. They will win easily, but if they play like the first half against Villarreal, they'll be about 5-0 down by the time the second half starts, because Tottenham are a better team going forward than Villarreal are. And I just wonder, might come down to the midfield, I think. Depends what Liverpool do in midfield. If they can, Tottenham have taken that kind of step back, haven't they, where they're just going, well, we're just going to play on the break. They just want to do that, and fair play to them because they do have Son and Kane who can do that. And I think the stat that since the start of last season, no Premier League players scored more goals than Son, not counting penalties. I think that's right. So that underlines how much of a threat he is. So it will be tough. Tottenham obviously do need something. I do think this would be a game where Tottenham are thinking if we get anything from this, it's a bonus. They'll be looking at other games. I believe there's a big North London derby coming up soon. Is the guy? Yeah. I think that's one where they
don't want to talk about it.
Circled and thinking that could be the one where we can get ourselves sorted. What's the position at the moment? Arsenal 2 points clear.
Arsenal 2 points clear. Play Leeds this weekend, so it could be 5 points.
Is it the same games?
Yeah, it could be 5 points clear with 3 games to go. With Arsenal going to Tottenham.
Yeah. So maybe, in some ways that might actually help Liverpool because Tottenham might just have to go for it a little bit. It depends. I think we know how Liverpool are going to play. We don't know how Tottenham are going to play, and I think that will decide just how difficult it is for Jurgen Klopp's side.
Yeah, no, fair enough. Right, let's move on then and pick our team. You say it depends what Liverpool are going to do in the midfield. In goal, as ever, Alisson, Becker. Theo, you can select the back four. Who's the back four going to be?
Matip in for Canate, and then as you were.
With that, Tom?
Yeah, I think that's probably about right. Probably only be Matip the one to sort of debate, but I think you bring him back in for this one, like Theo said.
And Doyle, I imagine you're going to say yes.
The only thing that might change is they may decide to rotate the fullbacks and play Tsimikas one game and play Gomez the game at Aston Villa on Tuesday. And I think that might be something that they could look at because Robertson had a bit of a poor first half. I mean, he was better second half, but he was better second half because he just stayed back and let Diaz just run off. So I do wonder whether or not they might give Robertson a break. But there's only 6 games left. I think they can. It isn't so much about resting legs now. It's actually just about getting the absolute optimum out of the players who are actually available. So we'll have to see on that one. But I do think it'll be probably, as the lads have said, Matip in for Canate.
Yeah, as Jurgen Klopp said in his press conference, it seems basically between travelling and playing matches, the players are just sitting in ice baths the rest of the time, just waiting for the games.
Whereas the press are just sitting in bars.
Yeah. That's doing you good, I'm sure. Right, Doyle, you said it's all about the midfield. What are Liverpool doing in there then?
I think they're going to have to go Fabinho, Thiago, and probably Henderson for this one.
Okay, Theo, you on board with that?
Yeah, same trio. He's pretty much rotated Henderson and Keita every week since the March international break. The only exceptions being when he's played the 2 of them together. So Keita started the last one. It's Henderson's turn.
And Tom, you're nodding along there.
Yeah, I agree as well. Yeah, let's go with the same 3.
Right, what about the strike force then? You can lead us on that, Tom.
I think like a lot of people have said, I think Diaz should be starting now, to be honest, each game. Just given how well he's played sort of the last few weeks, I think he's sort of earned the right to do that. So I would start Diaz for this one. Maybe bring Jota on later on. And then obviously Salah and Mane is the other 2.
Yeah, I was going to set some time aside to talk about Jota because he didn't seem to be great against Villarreal, Doyle. But then again, this is the kind of game where he starts on the bench, comes on, scores a couple of goals, and then we're all raving about Diogo Jota again.
Yes, but he will not be starting because it'll be Diaz, Salah, and Mane.
And Theo, you're thinking the same, yeah?
Yeah, I am. You're at that stage now where you think, how can you ever take Diaz out? He should be starting every game, the form he's in, and the form Jota's in, because he's not been at his best since injuries. One came in after the Villarreal game saying the only thing Jota does is score goals, and the Everton writers looked aghast at me as though that was a bad thing. It's like, they'd obviously love a player like that who just scores goals. But when you've got a player like Diaz who offers that and so much more, you start him. He is in a league of his own at the moment.
Is this Theo destroying Jota here? Let's just.
No. This is me destroying Everton.
You can't do that.
No.
I love that.
Yeah, no. Theo, let's just allow him time to retract that statement. Theodore, would you like to retract that statement?
Everton are a very good team, and I'm sure they will secure their Premier League survival in the weeks ahead.
And deservedly so as well. Soccer City, there's your bride. What I would say about Diaz as well, is Liverpool should be thankful for Tottenham, because if it wasn't for Tottenham going in for him like towards the end of January, Liverpool would never have made the move then. So I'm sure before the game, Jurgen Klopp will go over to Antonio Conte and give a big wave to Daniel Levy or Levy, as he should really be called. And said thanks a lot.
Yeah, okay. Right, what's the score going to be, Doyley? You can start on that one.
I love the dismissive way you just treated that comment then. Yeah, well.
No, it's fair. It's fair, but there's nowhere to go with it. Yeah, thanks first for
guard of honour instead, maybe before the game.
Exactly. Yeah. 2-1 to Liverpool. It'll be close. It'll be another late nonsense just to annoy me. Basically, this entire season has just been to annoy me.
You love it, really.
Well, I mean, what else would I do? Honestly,
gives you an excuse to have KFC every other week.
Yes, KFC. That's not killing me.
Yeah. Right, Theo, score.
3-2 Liverpool.
3-2. Right, Tom.
Is that enough fun, Theo? Is that enough fun?
Yeah.
Enough jeopardy. Yeah.
Which order are those goals coming? No.
Go down at half time.
Well, trailing at some point.
Yeah, we've got time for that. Tom, you going 4-0, are you?
2-0 to Liverpool.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
Let's wait and see how it does play out. A Liverpool win, as ever, would be absolutely delightful this weekend. But that's all we've time for on this edition of the Blood Red Podcast. Of course, we will be back on Monday with reaction to the game at Anfield and plenty, of course, going on in the build-up to the game. You can follow it all across on the Liverpool Echo website and plenty of reaction to come here on the Blood Red YouTube channel as well on the podcast feed. But from myself, Guy Clarke, Ian Doyle, Theo Squires and Tom Cavilla, thanks for your time and your company. Bye for now.